Oh, it's time, does it?
Yeah.
Okay. We've got to do some content.
We're only 3 minutes late. I feel a bit bad because we're only 3 minutes late.
Oh, it was Fist of Fun.
Oh, with Lee and Harry.
Yeah. What you'll need for this week's hobby.
Mr. Tony Blair. Was that the one where they have Mr. Tony Blair, which was the Humpty Dumpty thing?
I don't know, but I just like that. For your hobby, you'll need some weak lemon drink. Simon Quinlank, Duke of Hobbies.
That bloke's weird looking. I know.
Yes, he is. I think that's why he's a good comedian.
Yeah.
The Prince of Most Pastimes tells you how to ignore trains as a hobby.
Read that. That's Northern architecture.
Good evening and welcome to another Fortean Words.
Are the theme tunes available on request?
Yeah.
One day I will reinstall Windows on my computer and Hobbit will have other theme tunes available upon request.
Oh, I was going to say, why don't I come over this weekend?
A bit busy.
And then,
La la.
Bit busy this weekend.
Sacre bleu.
Yeah, but that's fair enough. I'm working Tuesday till Friday, so next weekend. I was going to ask you after the show.
I think we're supposed to do it off the show, aren't we?
Yeah.
Tell everyone your fucking plans, eh?
So sometimes it's like after the show.
When you get a pedicure together, Jesus Christ, guys, you know.
Yeah, but sometimes you go like after the show, right, guys, I need a poo. See you, and it's like that's it. They're just like I thought I'll do the after show bits first, and then we'll do the.
We do have more than one method of communication open to each other, Hobbit. We don't need to do it on the show.
But I've run out of carrier pigeons. You've not sent any of them back.
That's because the dog ate them.
Oh, your fucking dog! What, has he run out of hedgehogs?
I don't think you. I think we need to stop saying about the hedgehogs. 'Cause I'm pretty sure that's illegal, killing hedgehogs.
No, it's not. Badgers do it all the time.
Hey, speak of the devil, Marco Coletti Spaghetti. If you want to DM us on your current account because we can't keep up with them, if we find out who you are, we can talk to you again, Marco.
Do we need like a tracking thing? Like how there's a Nancy Pelosi stock tracker. We need a Marco Coletti's...
There's a Nancy Coletti. No, not Nancy Coletti.
Nancy Coletti. Mark Collett, Nancy Pelosi, financial advice.
I suggest buy weak lemon drink.
Mark Collett, the Prince of Most Pastimes. For my new hobby is white nationalism. For this hobby, you will need not Nathan Barley. What's the name of that kid which you can use as a stooge? Nathan Barley, weak lemon drink, and a printing press.
You can't buy lemon barley anymore. When's the last time you saw lemon barley in the shops, Hobbit?
But you don't. Nathan. Now we're mixing up Nathan Barley,
Nathan Barley with weak lemon drink. You get lemon barley.
Lemon drink.
But do you remember Robinson's lemon barley? And they used to do other barley stuff as well, didn't they?
Yes, I quite like the peach barley water. That was a good one.
But why don't you get that anymore?
Peach. Yeah, what happened to barley water? Yeah. So we have got a show, but at the same time...
Yeah, we're not actually doing a playthrough of a game, as the title may suggest.
But I also have a headache, which is going to make concentrating on the facts of the matter.
Hobbit you can't even concentrate on the facts of the matter without a headache.
Well, no, that's not true. It's just the fact is, if ever I was allowed to complete one of my tangents, you'd see what a brilliant point I was making.
Are you saying the antidote to autism is headaches?
No, I'm saying the antidote to autism is, according to King Cobra JFS, it's rampant alcoholism.
Yeah, because it works for him, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, when he's drunk, nobody can tell he's an autistic spacker.
Right, let's get on with some. Let's play Gallagher.
Let's play Gallagher.
That man over there is playing Gallagher. That's grandstand, Hobbit.
Liam Gallagher.
I don't think Liam Gallagher ever presented grandstand.
Yeah, but he's
No,
a
fuck, it's
footballer.
Match of the Day.
Match of the day, yeah.
Liam Gallagher isn't a
Grandstand
footballer. He's a musician-ish.
Oh, I really like the Grandstand theme tune. No, wait, Grandstands. Is the theme tune I really like the one with the skiing? Yeah, I think it's the one where they're doing skiing.
That one, isn't it?
Let me just...
Ski
BBC
Sunday. Ski Sunday.
BBC Ski Sunday.
Marco Coletti Spaghetti suggests the cure for autism is probably playing EU4.
No. Yes, it is Ski Sunday. Ski Sunday is a brilliant theme tune, by the way. So,
Okay.
Pot Black.
I suggest you go and listen to it now whilst we get the show on the road.
Pot Black is the sports theme to end all sports themes.
Alphabet Cat, my Jag is very good. It's the most beautiful. I was in Stowe in the World, and it was the most beautiful car in the world.
In the world.
In the world, yes. And I'm not even exaggerating. That is a point I do want to bring up because I think it's pretty Fortean. Have you noticed how colours have been desaturated? There's less and less colours in the world. People are choosing more neutral tones. The most popular shades of Dulux paint now are various shades of grey. The most popular car colours are all grayscale.
Have you seen that thing where people paint the woodwork or the PVC windows when they paint them grey? I think that's horrible.
That's it. It's like you got wood, which is already a beautiful colour, and you're painting it grey or whitewashing it. And yes, Alphabet Cat, it does have enough power. It's both subtle, sophisticated, and strengthy. I'm trying to think of an adjective beginning with S that means powerful. Yeah. But my car was the most beautiful car there. And Stowe in the World, if you're not familiar with it, is a Cotswold town. It's a market town, very affluent. I suggest you go into the charity shops.
But not if you're not driving a Jag.
Oh, you can drive.
Did you get yourself some tweed, Hobbit, to wear in the Jag?
Well, yes, actually, you can. If you go to the charity shops there's some very good deals, some very nice clothing. I got myself a velvet jacket for going to the opera in Vienna there for £20. It looked very good.
Do you know who else probably went to Vienna?
Mark Collett?
Joseph Julius Scaliger.
Oh, you're doing a segue.
Joseph Justus Scaliger.
Whilst what's his name gets ready, can I just make my point about colours? I find this very interesting, and I do think
I've been ready for like 10 minutes.
Oh,
Fraser, about fucking your cataracts, mate.
Fraser, what do you think about colours being desaturated from one world? Why is everybody choosing grayscale?
I even have to say, but then again, that is probably cataracts, right?
Well,
I have graphs.
It's weird. It's like that plus like, why is all horror gone to like Fashwave now? Because I've got a subscription to Shudder, and it's all like 80s synth type music and purples and blacks and pinks, magentas, isn't it? In like Fashwave.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do seem to like that two-tone colour. I mean, I quite like the neon aesthetic, but I wouldn't really associate with horror. I think of Miami and such.
Yeah, no, like on the Shudder channel, like a lot of it is like the Fashwave colours.
Well, before we get too into this tangent, if you're interested in colours and the desaturation in the world, go to the Fortean Words channel, and there you will see, I forwarded it from something called Waking Up 1984. There's plenty of graphs showing not just cars, but people's choicing in clothing, Dulux paints, and photographs in general. The colours being more desaturated. In fact, it seems that blues are the only real colour being represented in modern times.
Ooh.
I find that quite disturbing.
Well, it's like the silver car's quite common, isn't it?
Oh, just various shades of grey. I hate it.
Anyway,
But that's what I mean.
Mad
Stone World.
Fuzzy's chomping at the bit. Are you supposed to say champing? I say
Yeah,
chomping at the bit.
Yeah, chomping.
Well, yeah,
Chomping.
but when the horse is champing it, it's not chomping on the bit because you can't really chomp on it. You champ at it, so it is champing at the bit.
Okay.
Take it away, Fraser.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, roll. Let us begin with our. Should we say? I don't know. Well,
Citation needed.
What's tonight's topic then? Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's topic is: have you ever wondered if all you ever thought in history actually was just something that happened very recently?
Latin or Arabic?
Well, no, yeah, we're not doing that just yet, Hobbit. Don't worry, we're not getting.
Good.
We gotta.
Are we going to talk about? Are we going to talk about the before times and the poxy clips? I've watched.
No.
I've watched Mad Max 3 recently.
No, well, okay, well, you know me. I've grown an interest in Antonio Fomenko. So we say deconstruction of chronology. Was to do with should we say that what we're going to talk about tonight, the Scaligerian, chronological method of dating. So, what is the Scaligerian method? The chronology of the entire history of almost all classical civilizations was developed by a man named Joseph Scaliger. Justus Scaliger.
Joseph Justus Scaliger.
Yeah, circa 1540 to 1609 Anno Domini. Was a French philologist and historian whose works on chronology, i.e. Scaligerian chronology, were among the great contributions of the Renaissance scholars in historical and classical studies. Source: that was in Encyclopedia Britannica. In his work, Scaliger investigated the ancient systems determining epochs, calendars, and computations of time. Scaliger had a number of students, but his most famous student was Dionysius Petitius, or Dionysius the Little, aka Dionysius Petit in French, or Exiguus in Latin. This will come into play later as well. Remember these guys, this Dionysius guy, and Scaliger himself. Dionysius Petitius, circa 1583 to 1652, this is the student, was a Scaligerian Jesuit chronologist, best known as the inventor of the BC AD dating system. So he's the one responsible for before Christ and Anno Domini in the year of our Lord. Is adapted to a number of years in Gregorian calendar that we use in the West and other parts of the world today. As you may already know, BC stands for before Christ, AD stands for Anno Domini in the year of our Lord. Right? Okay, so yeah. It's important to know that it was Dionysius Petitius who, based on the Scaligerian biblical chronology, he single-handedly developed and calculated the Earth's age to be 6,000 years old. See Anno Mundi. While scientists have proven that our planet is so much older than 6,000 years, well, okay, maybe you have. Perhaps billions of years old. Historical chronology of all the classical civilizations, from ancient Egypt to the Ottoman Empire, is still being compressed into the falsified Earth's age time frame of 6,000 years.
Bit like the Amazon Lord of the Rings series.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much, yeah. Wait, is that just a repeat of?
Is that them telling you what they're doing yet again?
Yeah, maybe it is. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah. In other words, much of the history of the world as we know it today was formulated based on a falsified Scaligerian biblical chronology. According to Antonio Fomenko and Novoski, in their book History, Nosovsky, Nosovskiy.
Yeah, because anything before 6,000 years ago, they say was prehistory. It's like, here's a cave painting in France. It's 40,000 years old, but Babylon and cuneiform writing is 6,000 years ago.
Right. Okay. In Fomenko and Novoski's book, History, Fiction, or Science, the entire history of the Holy Roman Empire was backdated or shifted back at least 1,050 years, and much of this history happened during the Middle Ages. This is what Fomenko and Nowosky are claiming. During the Middle Ages, 1000 to 1500 AD, not during the 1st century through the 12th century AD, is now implied. Other scholars like Walter Williams and Godfrey Higgins, made similar claims. It's always biblical right engaging premeditated falsification of history involving the superimposition of created biblical characters and biblical chronology on real-world historical characters and chronology. However, I was neither aware of the scale of this falsification.
So which one are you reading? Sorry, Fraser.
I'm just reading the actual definition of what Scaligerian chronology, what it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
just so biblical dating since. Right, okay. If you want to go on to the Northern architecture thing, we'll start from there.
Yeah, that's quite a good one. I'll do that one if you want.
Yeah, go on.
So the title is The Mysterious Renaissance Epoch as a Product of the Scaligerian Chronology. Fuck me, glad I ain't had too many beers. The Scaligerian chronology is very fond of the Renaissance motif, appealing to the archetypal recurrence. I can't say archetypal without thinking about that drop from TRS. The archetypal cocksucker.
That's from Alex Jones.
Yeah, I just can't. Like archetypal in my head, that always follows it now. The archetypal recurrence of the classical age.
That guy genetically looks like he's from Israel.
So, yeah. So we've already spoken about this, haven't we, Mad Fuzz, with the centre of that Italian city.
Yeah.
This is that stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, basically, yeah. The Galleria Umberto, is that? Are we talking about
something
that?
like that? Yeah.
Talking about what? Actually, I think we're talking about something completely different.
No, it's the Galleria Umberto. I think that's the one we're thinking of. The one with the giant arches.
Giant arches. Oh, yeah. I don't think so.
Because that's Renaissance architecture, isn't it?
Well, no, that's supposedly classical. That's supposedly the Roman architecture. Again, like maybe in part 2 you'll probably understand that maybe that's how fake that is. I don't know. But no, I don't think it's that one.
That's not Renaissance. So that's not Renaissance then.
No, that's technically like classical, like Roman kind of style, isn't it? It's not. It's after the Renaissance, right?
So what is Renaissance?
Well, that's it. It's very hard to define. This is the problem with Renaissance. It's just a period in time. It's not actually a style. You know.
Renaissance
architecture.
Oh. No, I don't. The Renaissance is one of those weird things because it's like Black Death happened, end of feudalism, Renaissance.
Mm.
But that's the thing. I don't think there is a set kind of like Renaissance.
I thought the Renaissance was like when they harkened back to the
yeah. I think that was it. Yeah, but this is the weird thing. That was what the Renaissance was, the 1500s, right?
Yeah.
15 to 1600s. That's when that was that. And yet, all of these supposed like classical building kind of styles didn't happen until the late 17th century, 1800.
Yeah.
So that's a bit weird.
Mm. So, because your Renaissance artists are like, it's the Ninja Turtles ones, isn't it? Raphael, Michelangelo, Donatello, isn't it? Oh. They're your Renaissance artists. They're your Renaissance artists, aren't they?
Yeah.
So the ancient Plato is supposed to have been the founding father of Platonism. Well, clues in the name. His teaching allegedly falls into oblivion for centuries to come, and is revived by the famous Neoplatonist Plotin, allegedly in the 205 to 270 AD. The similarity of his name to that of his teacher is purely accidental, of course. Then Neoplatonism perishes as well in order to be revived again in the
15th century.
15th century XV AD by another famous Platonist, Platon, whose name is also identical to that of his teacher as a result of sheer coincidence.
Guys, Stop being so insensitive to the lesser races. We have to refer to it now as BCE and CE for before Christian era and
after Christian
Christ's era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The medieval Platon is supposed to have revived the ancient Platonism, having been an avid advocate. Wow, that's a turn of phrase. Of the ancient sage Plato. Furthermore, it is only in the 15th century that Plato's manuscript was unearthed. all buried in that. Pages 143 to 14. Unearthed. I assume this is a link to something, isn't it? Pages 143 to 147.
Yeah,
this is precisely the epoch of Gemisto-Platon. That reminds me of the Nostradamus stuff, the rise of Hitler. Is it Hitler or who is it? Is that who Nostradamus talks about? Hitler or something like that, isn't it?
I don't remember. I haven't looked at Nostradamus in years, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he's having a bit of a renaissance at the minute, isn't he? I think people have started talking about him again. I mean,
hasn't all of his prophecies come true already? Like, is there any left?
Yeah, they're that vague. It's that you can kind of probably say that most of them have.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
You want me to continue? Or...
No, I'll carry on. Platon founds Platon's Academy in Florence in the image of the ancient Plato's Academy. Yeah, it's in Florence, like Italy. That's where all the Renaissance artists come from as well, isn't it?
Yep. All the humanists, shall we say? They were all humanists, which is another attributing factor between them all. All of these people were all humanists. Yeah, which is interesting.
So A.A. Vasilev writes that his Platon's AF sojourn in Florence has been one of the most important periods for Italy when it was importing the ancient Greek science and Plato's philosophy in particular. Both Plato and Platon wrote utopian works. Gemisto-Platon is reported to have been the author of the famous tractate on the laws, which sadly failed to reach us in its entirety. However, the full text of Plato's tractate by the same title did. Platon, who lived in the 15th century, also suggests that the construction of an ideal state with his program being extremely close to Plato's. Plotin, who had allegedly lived in 205 to 270 AD, is yet another one to have hoped the emperor would aid the foundation of the city of Platonopolis in Campagna, Italy again, where he had planned to introduce some communal aristocratic institutions a la Plato. Many prominent ecclesial, I don't know what that means.
Ecclesial.
Oh, is it a typo?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, yeah, maybe.
Ecclesiarchy.
No, it's spelled ECD. I think.
Ecdesial.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe it's
Ecdesial.
Yeah.
I don't know whether ecdesial is actually a word, but.
Yeah.
Let's have a quick search. It could be just ecclesial.
Yeah.
Ecdesial with a Y. Shedding of outer layer of skin by insects. No, it must be ecclesial then.
Yeah, it's ecclesial.
Yeah, it's a typo. Ecclesial leaders have historical doppelgangers in Scaliger's chronology. Eusebius, in his Historia Ecclesiastica, so it says Historia Ecclesiastica, makes many references to a certain Bishop Victor who played a key role in the so-called Easter dispute, or the introduction of Paschalian rules. There is indeed an Easter dispute known to history and associated with the name of Victor, as reflected in the term Paschalian cycle of Victor. However, this dispute and Victor's lifetime are ascribed to 463 AD, whereas Eusebius, who reports this, is supposed to have lived in the 3rd to 4th century AD. The Scaligerian chronology would appear to be a bit inverted. Furthermore, Eusebius tells us of a famed Dionysus who formulated the rules for celebrating Easter, having linked it to the spring equinox and the suffering of the Saviour. According to Eusebius, Dionysus is supposed to have died in the 12th year of Gallienus, which is 265 AD. in the Scaligerian Scaligerian chronology, it is most remarkable that another well-known scientist by the name of Dionysius lived in the 6th century AD, namely Dionysius Exiguus, Dionysius the Little. He is supposed to have conducted an in-depth study of the Paschalian problem and deduced the date of Christ's birth for the first time. Right, what do we think so far? Oh, Obbit's disappeared.
Oh no, I'm not disappeared. It's just that I don't have anything to say, so well, nothing pertinent.
Oh, okay.
And you know, as Grief would say, "Oh, I hate Hotbit's tangents."
Oh, I'm nothing. I'm nobody. I'm nothing. I'm shit. I'm nobody.
Why doesn't Grief do a Fortean words? He could talk about like the lesbians of Saint Just and the best bumming spots in Penzance. Hi, Grief.
The bum pirate of Penzance.
So what we're beginning to see then, like with this like this paragraph, is that in Scaligerian chronology there are repeated events, or what seem to be repeated characters, events.
Repeated but slightly different.
Yeah, sometimes slightly different, and sometimes they're like, okay, this is almost exactly one for one, right? Throughout history, and which leads to kind of the well, what are the chances, right? What are the chances that a guy named Dionysus, resurrects, this guy's teachings twice, in over the span of
Yeah, because like you can
1,100
understand
years,
it now
right?
because like people have no originality anymore, therefore
Yeah.
they use other people's names. Like back then, it probably wasn't that. It really wasn't that kind of common, was it? Like the only time you'd have people with the same name would probably be like royalty, so you Charles I, Charles II, that kind of thing. But yeah, like you say, it wouldn't have been like you wouldn't have like Dionysus fans on a forum on the internet in like 400 AD or something.
Exactly. I mean, well, yeah, exactly. Also, what we also begin to see is the fact that with the Scaligerian chronology as well, like it starts to shed light on the fact that most of what we know about ancient, say Roman or Greek, times, reportedly comes from this 15th century, the Renaissance era. As outlined here, they found Plato's books in this manuscript,
Buried.
perfectly preserved.
Again, buried.
Yeah,
It's always buried, isn't it?
Well, it's buried, and B, it's perfectly preserved. Well, Plato was supposed to be. Well, Plato was 1,200 BC, was it? Is that
I'm
Plato?
not entirely sure.
So Plato was 1,200 years, right, before Christ. And then they only found his manuscript 1,500 years after Christ. So that's like 2,700 odd years, I believe, right? It could be wrong. It could be a bit closer than that. But basically, yeah. So, basically, it could have been 300. Actually, it could have been 300 years before Christ.
So
Plato.
I think he was born. So he was round about 428 to 423 BC.
Okay, so it was only it was 1800. Okay, so it wasn't that long ago.
Oh, sorry. He was somewhere between 428 and 423 BC. He was born, and he died somewhere around 348 to 347 BC.
Yeah, okay, so it was like 400 years before Christ. Okay, it wasn't that long a period. Right. So like, what, 1,800 years between finding this manuscript, this perfectly preserved manuscript of Plato, just as another guy called Platon was writing exactly the same stuff.
Yeah.
And we never kind of got to see his fully developed works, but that's a bit suspicious, isn't it? You find a manuscript from a guy exactly with the same history kind of name.
Forgive my ignorance, but I've never heard of this Platon before.
Well, this is it. Well, this is the thing. Like, most people probably haven't. Like, most of the common folk, anyway, who's not historians, have probably never heard of him. Yeah, you're right. because Plato's so famous, right? Because we go off Plato, right? Thanks to these Renaissance, as it's stated that we look back to the past and we admire and reverence the old kind of. So those are taken as higher status than anything of much younger contemporary means. So yeah, basically, like, we got a guy here who's a duplicate, it would seem, in the 15th century, and one in 400 BC. So exactly the same method, exactly the same talking about exactly the same rules of Platonism. What do we suggest then? Is this a forgery? Could this be a forgery of the past?
Well, they also mentioned another
That's
one
the
in that
question.
YouTube video you put in there, Pletho.
Yeah, Pletho. Yeah, that's another one. That one's an Ottoman actually as well. Which is an even more interesting thing. It seemed that there's even more then. Yeah, that one's a bit more interesting actually, because again, his life story is. I mean, you can play it if you want. I don't know when it is exactly. When he talked about Plato and Pletho. But yeah, basically, yeah, it's, the circumstances around when Plato lived, about shall we say, the sacking of Byzantium by the Persians, is very similar to when Pletho was alive and the sacking of Constantinople by the Ottomans. Again, similar event.
But wait, I have learnt, thanks to Dr. Not Pakistanian, that it was never called Constantinople and it's always been Istanbul, even when Alexander the Great conquered.
Are you saying that They Might Be Giants lied to me, Hobbit?
Actually, I don't know what I'm saying. I just really don't like that guy.
Do you know? do you remember? Do you not remember Istanbul's Constantinople by They Might Be Giants?
Is that a song?
Yes.
All right, chat. Just to show like my level of cognizance today. Hemi was talking to me about Mike Tyson. I was like, I know that name. Is he a footballer? And I had to be reminded that he was a boxer.
Right. Okay. Do you want? Which will continue? Shall we read the rest?
Yeah.
Then?
Right. So Charlemagne's portrait. He allegedly reigned in 742 to 814. Albrecht Dürer for Charlemagne's portrait. Albrecht Dürer 1514. It doesn't quite make sense, this bit.
Okay. So no, what he's saying is portrait of Charlemagne 742. That was when he was supposedly reigning by.
So it was by Albrecht Dürer in 1514.
Yeah, drawn in 1514. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Drawn for him. Yeah.
The portrait is kept in the German Museum, Nuremberg. So forget that. That's references again. Apart from this, he calculated the advent of Easter for many years ahead, affixing it to the spring equinox. We have two eminent scientists by the name of Dionysius who studied the Paschalian problem and the relation of Easter to the vernal equinox, both following Victor, who already possesses a duplicate of his own. However, they are separated by a period of 3 centuries according to the Scaligerian chronology. This is evidently a mistake. There was only one Dionysius whose double existed on paper exclusively. Actually, we are to acquaint ourselves with yet another Dionysius the Little, who must have been the prototype of both. We are referring to Dionysius Petavius, who lived in the 17th century. We see strange duplicates in the Scaligerian history of the famous Res Romana as well. F. Schupfert writes that the series of prominent Roman lawyers ends with Erinus Modestine, who had died in 244 AD. After that, the entire discipline of law enters a lethargic phase, to be revived in 900 years by Erinus, who was the double of Erinus in activity as well as the name. It suddenly resurrected in the entirety of its primordial grace in Bologna. That's a reference. The medieval Inerius, ancient Erinus, was the founder of the school, started lecturing in Roman law at about 1088 AD. reviving it after an alleged 9th century period of oblivion. He is also supposed to have collected the ancient codices of Justinian. There are two famous Homers in the Scaligerian history, the ancient poet and the medieval Angilbert Homer, who is supposed to have belonged to Charlemagne's court in the 9th century AD. He must have received his academic name Homer for his poetical works, suggests G. Weber. Very few poetic works of Angilbert have reached us. In Volume 5, page... no, that's a reference. This medieval Homer had been an important member of the circle of scientists that existed in the Ashen court of Charlemagne. It has to be noted that Charlemagne is in no way a personal name as we tend to think today. Most probably it was used to mean the great king. So is this some sort of workaround they're trying to do now?
I think, yes. Well, yeah, I think this is, yeah, I think so. Again, it kind of is, well, it goes into like this, the problem is like, were people called different things, you know, would they have nicknames, you know, kind of things like that. I think that's what it's going into. Like, is it a nickname?
Yeah.
It used
to mean great king. The question of who exactly referred to in that manner deserves a special study, and we shall return to it below. In figure 1.4, we can see a portrait of Charlemagne painted by Albrecht Dürer in the this is a typo, so I'm gonna have to go back, in the 15th century. Is that?
Yeah, 15th century.
Because for some reason they put a J in there. Full of fucking mistakes. This is. He's got it wrong again. VJ. Nowadays, the ancient Roman count of time by Ides and Calends. Ides and Calends is assumed to have gone out.
That's like. Those are terms to refer to like times of the year, aren't they? Because they say
beware the Ides of March, isn't it?
And the calends of, is it the calends of June? It's basically like you do planting or harvesting on calends, and the Ides is when you can go and do your wars and such.
And you don't hang around, and you don't do politics on the Ides, do you?
Yeah, you're supposed to beware the Ides of March, aren't you?
Yeah.
But doesn't this tie into like with all the historical revisionism around dates and calendars, and let's not even talk about the Russians using a different calendar system that they decided to.
Didn't the Gregorian calendar fuck up? There's even in the official version, there's supposed to be we're like a couple of years out, aren't we?
The reason I mentioned that is because we've done this before. In fact, I think it was one of Fraser's earliest episodes when we were talking about why do these buildings have, you know, they're missing the M in their dates. They're just showing like this building's built 893, not 1893.
Yeah.
Is J a Roman numeral, or is this a typo?
J is actually according to, shall we say, some scholars, is an invention of the Jesuit priests, and it was supposedly to symbolize Jesus, but actually Jesus was actually always usually I. It would be I. So
yeah, because on the cross it says INRI, doesn't it?
That's claimed to be a forgery. Anytime there's a J thing, it's not correct. If you see it with an I, then that is the correct. That's the correct.
Because that's how you spell Jehovah, isn't it? With how you supposed to spell Jehovah with an I, isn't it? It's Jehovah, isn't it?
Isus. Yeah, it's meant to be Isus. Isus. Yeah, that's how it was named.
Oh, but you're a Catholic. What does INRI stand for?
Yes. It's that thing you see on the crucifix above Jesus. It definitely means something, doesn't it?
Oh, fuck it. Let's look it up. INRI. What does INRI mean? So where is it? Oh, the New Testament does not give a direct meaning of INRI because these letters represent Latin, not Greek words. The Book of Matthew, however, does tell us that this was placed over Jesus' head when he was on the cross. Yeah, we know that. Pontius Pilate commanded the following accusation be written above his head. This is Jesus, King of the Jews. So somehow that means. The Gospels of Mark and Luke have similar wording compared to Matthew, while the references in Matthew and Mark do not reveal to us which languages the accusation was written in. In Luke and John do tell us in John's version of INRI, he states that hung above Jesus' head with the phrase, "Jesus the Nazarene, the King of the Jews." So, yeah, so, Hobbit, you're not alone in not knowing what INRI means.
Oh, right.
It doesn't it doesn't appear to nobody knows what it means. So, yeah, so you're fine.
Oh, because I think it's one of those things I looked up, like, because, AD is Anno Domini.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's just like, why does it exist? There was the other thing as well.
So here's what they think. So the letter I represents Jesus, name spelled Iesus. Yeah, as we said. Yeah. Strangely, even though Latin has a letter J in the alphabet, it was decided to spell Christ's name beginning with an I. This was probably because Greek and Hebrew do not have a letter in J in their alphabets. The letter N in INRI stands for Nazarenus, which in English is Nazareth or Nazarene. The letter R stands for Rex, which is translated as king, and the last letter I is an abbreviation for the word Ivdeorum, which translated is Jews. So they think it's Jesus.
Yes, Nazarene, King of the Jews.
Jesus Nazarene, King of the Jews. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there we go. That's what INRI stands for. That was a nice little tangent, but I can't remember why we went on it.
Because because Jesus loves you. That's why.
Yeah.
Or Iesus, if you want to do the Greek thing.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so So if you want to read out,
Right, where was I? So
nowadays, the ancient Roman count of time by Idus and Candace. You were reading that part.
I've completely, because I think I flicked up to see some. Oh yeah, So nowadays, the ancient Roman count of time by Ides and Candace. Oh, I read that. There's a large. So it's presumed to have gone out of use in the VJ to VII, but I think that's supposed to be 6th to 7th century. Yeah. Nevertheless, the medieval chronographers of the 14th century AD appear to have been unaware of this fact, using the long-forgotten Ides and Calends whenever they saw fit. So I assume that's just like a general, like, you get overlaps, don't you, when things go out and things come in, don't you? Like we, to some extent, we still use inches and centimeters, don't we? So
yeah.
There's a large number of such odd doubles in the Scaligerian history. We're not claiming they prove our statements. One may indeed find a large number of... And then that's it. Yeah. Old miniature from the book. So there's a
figure 1, 4.5. Yeah, so this is a figure that was a miniature drawn, obviously, in a book. In the 15th century?
XV, 15th century.
Yeah.
The siege of Troy is on top and the foundation of Paris is at the bottom. The miniature illustrates the Trojan origins of the French, with ancient Greeks and Trojans portrayed as medieval knights wearing heavy plate armour, identical to that of the knights found in Paris at the bottom of the miniature, also medieval. I mean, could some of this be artistic license?
Well, here's the thing. Well, this is the point, I think. Back in the day, right? Okay, so let's take it from the point of view of, say, normie historian back in the day in the 15th century. You get told about this ancient culture, right? And you've never seen anyone in ancient garments or clothing. What do you draw? How do you represent them? You would probably then have to take artistic license and just draw what you know, right? Which would be medieval knights in armor, right?
Yeah, you do what you know, don't you? You write what you know.
Therefore, when we see all these depictions of Troy and all these weird things, it's supposedly there's some of Alexander the Great in medieval knight's armor, the one where he's talking to the headless men, kind of that one. He's in knight's armor. Maybe it's either they had no idea what a Greek would have worn, their armor, whatever, which then in itself raises some very, very interesting questions.
Yeah, because because we apparently now know what they look like because we dug it up.
So how did we know that? Now, exactly.
Well, we dug it up, Madfuss.
Well, yeah, we dug it up after the fact, right? They had no idea about these things, but supposedly they knew of these people. Yet they had no artifacts of them, other than the manuscripts and the stories, right?
Well, yeah. Well, they have no artifacts of them apart from the hardest thing to preserve, which is fucking text, which is fucking papyrus, paper, whatever the fuck they made it out of. Because if you watch the Da Vinci Code, I mean, I just think it's a fair representation where they have the atmosphere room where they try and keep as much oxygen out of there as possible, don't they? So this stuff doesn't. So but they've been keeping it in drafty old damp churches, castles and churches
years.
And things like that for thousands of years, and it's all been fine.
I mean, they say when you speak, people that you take away any doubt that you're an idiot, and if you don't speak, people just think you're one. Yeah. But so here's me confirming to people I'm an idiot, right? The Romans sort of had plate mail armor. They had what was called a loricum segmenta, or segmented armor, and it went on top of the chainmail, and it was pretty good stuff.
Did the Romans wear chainmail then?
Yeah, the Romans had chainmail.
That was because didn't you buy your own armor in Rome, or something like that, isn't it?
Prior to the Marian Reformations, when you had the Hastati, Principes, and Triarii, yes, you bought your own armor, and if you couldn't afford any, you would end up in the velites or funditores as an auxiliary skirmisher. But then with the Marian Reformations, when they wanted professional soldiers, and you had the legionaries, your equipment was provided to you by the state. The auxilia, I'm not sure how the auxilia are armoured, because that was kind of weird. It's they'd conquer an area and then say, right, you're soldiers with the Roman Legion now, but you're going to be auxiliaries. So that's a good question. My point is more about the armor, because one of the things.
My rough point was just you'd have the chainmail as well if you had the money for it, wouldn't you?
Yeah. In the medieval times, knights in shining armors, the trope. But then there was this whole period of the Dark Ages, which I'm not sure if it existed or not, where people were
does seem a bit of a cope, doesn't it? It's the dark. Isn't it the Dark Ages because of our knowledge of the period? Isn't it, Hobbit?
Yeah, but also they say it's the Dark Ages because things were physically dark. There was solar minimum, and maybe there was clouds of space dust between the sun and the earth, and the yields were very bad, and it was an ice age.
Stagnated, and there was not much progress.
Yeah, and you look at the sort of arms and armor that the Dark Ages.
Isn't there also supposed to be a gap of knowledge as well, isn't there, of the period?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the only people that were preserving knowledge were the monks. They were the only people that were actually furthering knowledge. So this idea that the Dark Ages wouldn't happen if it wasn't for the Catholic Church, you stupid fuck. Hang on. Susan doesn't like it when I say that word. You stupid fucking dark people. If it wasn't for the monks preserving the knowledge and actually doing experimentation, we wouldn't have had science. But I think there's got to be some link between medieval plate mail armor and loricum segmenta, because plate mail is not just inflexible plates of armor. Okay, some bits are, but where you need the articulation, they are articulate. Have you ever seen those videos of people doing star jumps and rolling around in plate mail? Just showing how agile the damn things are.
Yeah.
This idea that it's clunky and it's difficult to move around in it's a myth.
Yeah, so how could you fight in it? if it's like you need didn't isn't there like myths about they had to be like craned onto their horse or something?
Well, I can imagine with King Henry VIII that happened because he was a fat bastard and his horses didn't last very long either.
Yeah, but he weren't
They
a fat
didn't-
bastard until later, was he? Because he had a knee injury, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, when he was busy conquering like France and Belgium, and then the Pope said, "Could you please give Belgium back?"
No,
That's
fuck
why
off.
well, no, actually, he did.
Oh.
But the Pope's made a lot of concessions.
But he
to him,
did
which
bear a grudge though, didn't he?
yes, which resulted in a bit of controversy, as we well know.
A bit of controversy.
Yeah. Actually, that's the bit I always sort of joke saying, well, technically, I'm English on both sides of my family because I'm from the bit of Belgium which King Henry VIII conquered. Therefore, it is English soil.
Okay, if that's how you cope with it. If that's something.
Yeah.
What?
That's how you
No, I am Norman stock. I am.
So,
the
but you're
aristocracy of
from the
England.
bit of the imaginary country that you imagine is English. Is what you're saying,
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's Normans on both sides of the family. All right. I haven't got a Mark Collett nose. I'm not as Norman as he is. But
I've got to say, Hobbit, you haven't got the Norman nose.
no, I don't. But so I've been a bit sort of mongrelized with Anglo-Saxons, but I'm still up there. I could share a dinner with Jacob Rees-Mogg and talk about like paintings and stuff.
Paintings and stuff.
Yeah,
And
paintings
jags.
which I'm going to put in my jag.
Jags.
Yeah.
Right. So have we finished discussing? Do you want me to carry on?
Yep, continue. Yep.
So we've got another. So back to the same picture we're talking about. I really ought to put it up, but it's Friday
should
night,
put it
so
up.
I'm not. Okay then. Right, hold on. Give me 1 sec.
I mean, it's a good representation of what we're talking about. So. Okay, so I'll continue reading while you're doing that then.
I'm nearly done. It's up. Transform, fit to screen. So this is the figure 1.45 that we're talking about. So figure 1.45, an old miniature from the book called titled Les Grandes Chroniques de France. How's that pronunciation, Hobbit?
Yes.
Paris, allegedly dating from the early 15th century. The siege of Troy is on top, and the foundation of Paris is at the bottom. The miniature illustrates the Trojan origins of the French, with the ancient Greeks and Trojans portrayed as medieval knights wearing heavy plate armour identical to that of the knights found in Paris at the bottom of the miniature, also medieval. So does this tie in with Geoffrey of Monmouth stuff? Because weren't like England and Brittany pretty intertwined, Hobbit?
Well, I mean, in French, they call our country Grande Bretagne, or Great Britain.
Yeah.
And they refer to Brittany as Bretagne.
Yeah.
So they're seen as not French. It's
Because
also
a fair chunk of Brittany was ours, wasn't it? I mean, that's why it is Brittany, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it was
whole
Norman. The thing is that the Bretons and those in Cornwall and Devon and such are very similar. They both grow cider, and they like their black pudding, and they just butter as well. And also the Bretons, they didn't speak French; they spoke Picard, which is make it so.
Jean-Luc.
Yeah, that's it. That was oh no, not Star Trek posting, but a Yorkshire actor role playing as a French captain in Star Trek, but it's not actually because he's Jean-Luc
I always assumed he was
Picard.
Canadian because he's a shit.
But it's
French
like
Canadian. I just imagine him to be French Canadian. That's what I imagine.
But why Jean-Luc Picard? I mean, it's a bit like saying you've got a French actor. Let's say Antoine de Clunes, and he's playing like an English captain. Yeah, let's say he's playing Admiral Nelson. There we go. And his name is not Admiral Nelson. It's Admiral Welsh, the most English captain possible. Oh, except he doesn't bother trying to speak with a French English accent. He just carries on doing his, Antoine de Clunes. Salut, my British chums. Because that's basically like, Patrick Stewart, can you be French? No.
No. That's the sideways fucking head meme. No.
Well, it's just you're supposed to be this French captain. No, I'm going to be English.
I'm gonna be. I'm a Shakespearean actor.
Yes. Yeah.
Um.
Isn't he gay?
No, you're thinking of Magneto.
Patrick Stewart in the thing where we're talking about dates and such.
You're thinking about him and his close friendship with the actual gay Gandalf.
Is he going on gay dates with Ian McKellen?
Yeah, probably.
Why couldn't have Sean Connery be in Gandalf?
Now, Frodo, you're not fucking going, Mitch. I can't think of Sean Connery without thinking of his excellent Irish accent that he did all the way through the Untouchables.
I like him as an older actor.
He was brilliant in the Untouchables. His little speech about one of theirs goes to the hospital, and one of theirs goes to the morgue.
Well, the thing is, I like him in Hunt for Red October because Sean Connery in that is very different to Sean Connery in James Bond. Even though you could say, well, James Bond and the captain in Hunt for Red October are kind of a similar character.
Well, he was Commander Bond, weren't he? Didn't he wear like whenever he wore a uniform, it was like a naval uniform. It wasn't like an army uniform, was it?
Yeah, that's right, because he was from the Navy.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it. I was going to start talking about The Rock, but I haven't watched it recently, so I can't.
That's a good film.
So medieval knights, plate mail, blah blah. Isolated coincidences. What we emphasise is the global nature of these duplicates and parallels, fitting the general scheme of chronological shifts which cover sequences of hundreds of years side by side, following each other for hundreds of years to come. I mean, could it be synchronicity?
I mean, you don't find, supposedly in nature, you don't find a pattern of like repeating. I mean, randomness, right? It would be random, right? You wouldn't find, the same guy, with the same ideas being repeated.
I mean, to play devil's advocate. To play devil's advocate. I mean, could these people be people that found Plato's works and did a Plato cult, maybe?
I mean, if you want to, wave it away as that, I guess you could argue that, right? You're given such large timescales.
Yeah.
And so little information, you could argue that, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. One of the principal indications of the medieval origins of many ancient documents is the very existence of a Renaissance epoch, when all of the ancient scientific principles, disciplines, philosophy, arts, and culture in general are assumed to have been revived. The resplendent classical Latin has degraded into a rough and clumsy lingo that only manages to regain its former splendour in the Renaissance epoch. This revival of Latin and classical Greek begins in the 8th to the 9th century AD, the latest. The famed medieval troubadours begin to use the plots that historians call a masquerade of classical recollections in the alleged 10th to 11th century. The history of Ulysses. Have you ever seen Ulysses 31, Madfaz?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, classic TV series. Mm-hmm. That to me is manga.
I would like it even more if it wasn't for the disco music they had.
Oh, you don't like the disco music?
I did not like the
guitars.
Disco music.
Do you not remember the guitars as well, Hobbit? There was some pretty fucking harsh guitars in it.
I just like, I remember disco music in it. It's like, mate, this doesn't give me like space opera Iliad vibes.
It's still a good series though.
I mean, it's like, imagine if Boney M was going to do like a song talking about Jason and the Argonauts. That's how it would be.
Well, that's you fucking French, isn't it? Because it's Deke did that, Deke made that, didn't they?
Wait, who? What?
Deke
Jason the Argonauts?
Deke Entertainment made Ulysses 31.
Yeah, no, look, it's a good cartoon, and I like the concept. I just wish the soundtrack was not what it was. I wish it was a different soundtrack.
I don't know. I think you're judging it harshly, Hobbit. I think if you revisited it, I think you'd like that soundtrack.
I have revisited it like 3 years ago.
Oh, did you?
I
Oh, okay
was
then.
reminded of it. Yeah, it's the same with Star Trek Enterprise. Like they for 2 episodes when they were doing like We're So Evil, they had a really good theme tune.
Oh, the Mirror Darkly ones, yeah.
Yeah, and plus the theme tune was really cool. Instead of all the gay shit, it was about like conquest and war and like dabbing on aliens. I want to see more about that. Not actually, no, I don't, because Star Trek now is gay and AIDS and monkeypox.
Oh,
Sorry,
Alphabet Cat's got a correction. Apparently, he tried a French accent in audition, but he claimed he sounded too much like Peter Sellers in the Pink Panther films. Yeah. Also, if you want to see a funny accent, you ever seen Lie to Me with what's his name? Tim Roth in it, where he's an expert on body language and stuff. If you watch the pilot is hilarious because he does this outrageous fucking accent that is really terrible, and then he tones it down for the series proper.
Oh, is that Would You Lie to Me? Is that?
Yeah, yeah. It's just called Lie to Me, isn't it?
That's it, Lie to Me.
Yeah, yeah. If you watch the pilot compared to the regular series, it's just hilarious because Tim Roth does this outrageous accent that's really bad.
Fuck it.
Anyway, so where is it? Masquerade of Classical Recollections, Classical Swords. Right. The famed medieval troubadours begin to use the plots that historians call a masquerade of classical recollections in the alleged 10th to 11th century. The history of Ulysses' Odyssey appears in the 11th century as a medieval remake of the well-known. So are they saying there's like a second version of Ulysses which is based in medieval times then?
Well, that's what they're basically saying. Is this?
So is this actually still around then? Is it?
I don't know if there is, but I think they're basically saying that these these miniatures, these depictions, are the remakes. No. Are they saying that these are they are then being remade maybe or after the fact because there's no other context to it like.
Some of this stuff is just like a time thing, though, isn't it? I should imagine you do get like enduring stories that come around again and again, and I should imagine like the Odyssey is one of those. I think it's a shit. Why has no one ever made like a film of the Odyssey or Homer or something like that? Seems strange, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
because all we've really had is Jason and the Argonauts about 40 years ago, 50 years ago.
Yeah, you're right.
I think I had like a children's audiobook about the Odyssey.
That was such a great.
Yeah, but why would you not make a film about the Odyssey? I mean, you could have like a trilogy and like special. You got all the special effects like the monsters they come across and all kinds of shit like that.
Well, they've done Troy, haven't they?
Yeah, but they turned it into what if Troy was real kind of thing. It's not like mystic. Like Achilles isn't really mystical, is he? They don't really make much of the fact that he's like.
Well, the fact, he is mystical. The fact that he gets shot on the knee and he dies from that is very mystical. Yeah. I mean.
But they don't really express the fact that he's son of a god or even mention Zeus, do they?
No, not really.
They tried to hide it. They tried to hide it as much as they possibly could. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. What you're saying is you want the full-on mystical kind of magical stuff. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, but again, they don't like that, do
they? Classical story complete with knights, bells, dames, jousting tournaments, etc. In fact, all the elements that shall later be considered integral to a classical plot. Yeah, because I mean, even who's the guy who wrote about the hero's journey? I mean, that's all like classical literature, isn't it? Even George Lucas himself said that Star Wars is based on the classical myths as well as everything else, isn't it?
Yeah, on the hero's journey. Yeah, that's right.
The troubadours have been proudly claiming that the story of the Trojan War to have been an original one, it had neither been told nor written by anyone before. The troubadours' primary concern had been that the Trojan War, it had almost been a native story for them. The Franks considered themselves descendants of the Trojans, while the alleged 7th century author Fredegarius Scholasticus refers to King Priam as a representative of the previous generation. Isn't there like a Greek person called something like Scholasticus?
Scholasticus sounds like a title rather than a name.
But it also sounds like a Roman or Greek name, doesn't it?
Like if I was to say, oh, that's Pope Pius. I mean,
yeah,
like the Pope, that's Pius, as opposed to Pope Impious.
So, furthermore, the voyage of the Argonauts became confused with the Trojan War when the Crusader conquerors, apparently the medieval prototypes of the ancient Argonauts, had set forth in the direction of faraway Asian lands. In medieval texts,
that's a very interesting thing to draw a parallel to the Argonauts and the Crusades, right?
Yeah.
Actually, that is a very interesting parallel. Yeah. Because they were after mythical trinkets, weren't they? The Crusaders.
Were they?
Believe of stories about them. Finding these mythical artifacts of the prophet, the apostles, and
modern day Iraq is supposedly full of all kinds of shit like that, isn't it? Because I'm not really that great with the geography of it all, but isn't like modern day Iraq, isn't it like part of it like old Babylon or something, isn't it?
Yeah, Sumer,
Mesopotamia.
Yeah.
Fertile Crescent.
So we need to do like a proper Iraq episode because Iraq and Afghanistan, because Afghanistan was where they found the giant, and then there's supposedly the Stargate in Iraq, isn't there?
You're going to try and do the Stargate again, are you?
Yeah. I think we... Or what do you mean again, phrase? I don't think we need to really talk about it in the first place. We didn't really talk about it in the first place, did we?
No, you didn't. No, you did not. I was disappointed.
So, one of the... So, where is... I think I've scrolled down too far. No. Where am I? Fucking lost me place. Troubadours proudly been claiming the famed medieval troubadours began to use I've done that bit. The classical story complete with knights, bells, dames, jousting tournaments, etc. In fact, all the elements that shall later be considered integral to classical plot. So what's happened like between then and modern day? Because I don't honestly believe that story still exists. The ones with knights doing the Odyssey. I mean, have either of you ever heard of it?
What do you mean the
Odyssey, but with actual like medieval knights doing it instead of?
Well, isn't there?
The Greeks?
And I may be getting this mixed up. Isn't there like Arthur's Knights of the Round Table, and was it Percival goes on the quest to find the Holy Grail?
Yeah, because there's that whole bit in the Holy Grail where they all kind of split up and get lost, don't they?
Yeah, that's in Indiana Jones, right?
It's in Indiana Jones, in Monty Python and the Holy Grail as well. Because they kind of fail in there. Arthur doesn't find the Holy Grail, does he?
No, but I think this is what I think what we're trying to say here is the stories of the ancient, these Argonauts, are they being attributed to the Greeks when they were actually more more recent medieval times. So
But
stories of the
that's what I'm saying. The
Crusades.
medieval tales don't. Why don't the medieval tales, like, if they're supposedly be like, why have the Greek tales endured but not the medieval tales when they're closer to us in history?
Again, this is the thing with as I said before, like, we seem to venerate the older tales. That, like, they're better. The older something is, the older a culture is, the better it is. So therefore, again, that could be my simplistic kind of making an apology for it. It could be more sinister than that. I mean, the reason why that we are taught the Greek tales and that is because they are fabrications and not
Well,
real
even
themselves.
Tolkien's reason for doing Lord of the Rings is because we have no like myths, do we? That was supposedly Tolkien's reason for doing Lord of the Rings, because he wanted to create an English myth, didn't he?
Which is very odd, considering we supposedly have all of these great Roman myths and Boudica and that. Does that mean they're not real as well? Like,
Exactly. You got Arthur.
yeah,
You know you.
Arthur, Camelot, yeah. It was Tolkien trying to tell us something? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, was he?
I don't
Hobbit.
know. Maybe.
Hobbit. You must know a bit about Tolkien, mustn't you? You're a nerd, and you're also called Hobbit, so you should be chiming in this bit. Oh, he'll be in a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So right.
Oh, I muted myself. Sorry, I was going
Ah.
to say, yeah. Tolkien had access to Oxford's medieval library, which few people. It's restricted, by the way, and so it
Nothing to
is
see.
often.
That's because there's nothing to see here, Hobbit, of course.
Yeah. Well, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. By the way, I'm joking about that, but if someone told me, "Oh, actually, it is," I wouldn't be surprised, because anything that's remotely interesting or connected to our history, UNESCO World Heritage. Have we done the UNESCO?
We need to do the
No, we have
UNESCO. I
to.
think we need to do this,
Right.
and we'll
Yeah.
do UNESCO, and we'll talk about the sites that they quote unquote control. Or
Okay,
they're
yeah,
just looking
because
after.
it's speculated that Tolkien was writing European prehistory into it. Some even speculate, and I don't know enough about the story of Sargon of Akkad, but
Yeah.
you had this thing with Sargon of Akkad, and he had the Babylonian numbering system, so 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week. Oh, by the way, 24 hours in a day is not the only numbering scheme. The Russians had 16 hours in a day, but then they had...
Beowulf isn't ours, is it? That's Nordic, isn't it?
set in Denmark and England.
Denmark
So,
and England.
There's like a voyage over the North Sea.
Oh, okay.
So Sargon of Akkad came over and brought with him the system of numbers and dates and such, and
And how to do YouTube.
yeah, and so in the Lord of the Rings, you've got hobbits in the Shire, and you've got Sauron over in the Middle East. Sorry, in Mordor, and Sauron wants to rule everybody for reasons, because he's evil.
So you
And
think
so
the orcs are actually Islams then?
well, they're savage beasts, aren't they? They're elves which have been corrupted.
Yeah.
So make of that what you will.
Yeah.
But they say like Sauron and Sargon of Akkad are the same. So Sargon of Akkad imposed the system of 24 hours a day, 7 days a week upon Europe, and Russia or Tartaria was not subject to that because they had their own calendar and hour scheme. Go on Forbidden Science, by the way, because it does talk about the Russian clocks with, like, why would you want so many seconds, like 1600ths of a second or something. But yeah, so Lord of the Rings could be an allegory for ancient history. Could be. And the reason I say could is because one never knows.
It was very specific that it wasn't an allegory, weren't it? Because I do remember an extremely autistic argument between two people on the internet about it. One
Probably
who
because,
was very
like,
into his mother.
even though Hillary Clinton wasn't born yet, he'd have been found dead because of a light plane accident or something.
But yeah, so apparently, like, so is are we saying that somebody else's history could be our history, and that's why we don't have history, or our history is somebody else's history?
White people don't have their culture.
Well, I was thinking more of like this stuff is actually about us and not other people. So. Right, so certain Slavonic texts of the Middle Ages use the name Paris, which is spelled Parizh, the Russian name for the city of Paris, in order to refer to Paris, the abductor of Helen, when they speak of the ancient Trojan War. Is this Russian bots doing this? Could it have referred to somebody from Paris? The following is said, for instance, Paris called himself Alexander and deceived Helen. The same medieval texts often demonstrate the flexion of P and F, spelling Paris as Faris. Okay. We see, so also on figure 1.45, which I'm showing, we see an ancient miniature from the French chronicle dated as the alleged 15th century that depicts the Trojan origins of the Franks. Modern commentary is as follows. The miniature illustrates the idea that the French can trace their ancestry back to Francion, the son of Hector and grandson of the Trojan king Priam. This is why we can see the foundation of Paris directly under the picture of the fall of Troy. So that's interesting. I didn't know. Did you know this, Hobbit?
No, I didn't, but I'm sorry, but someone was being wrong on the internet and I had to correct them.
So you didn't know this, that the French can trace their ancestry back to Francion, the son of Hector.
It's because they call themselves the Franks, don't they? And that's why the Frankish people became those of France. And
yeah.
Well, the funny thing about that is, like, the Franks, they say, was a German or Germanic tribe.
Yeah.
What moved to the west and took over what was then.
Are the Germans stealing our history? Is that what was all? Germans stealing our history? Is that
what's German?
We was Germans
for?
and shit.
We was Trojans. No, but what
we was
in German? Was it Ich war Trojans? Let me just go on Google Translate for a minute. Translate.google and then say we were Trojans, and let's have it auf Deutsch bitte. Where's the German option? Come on, G for German, right? There we go. Wir waren Trojaner. Hang on, did I pronounce that correctly?
I don't know.
Hasn't
there got to be more aggression in it, Hobbit? You know,
I can't.
The supposedly peaceful people, they always sound very aggressive, don't they?
Wir waren hang on. Trojaner.
Just pretend you're saying, show me your papers, quite aggressively.
Papieren bitte.
Francion. So Troy barely has the time to fall when Paris is founded. The ancient Troy is also represented as a medieval city here. Did they ever do any
Can we
of this
do
stuff
an intermission to eat? Because Crackademic, he's got some Lord of the Wings and
Lord of the Wings.
I could do with some chicken right now.
Chicken. We was chicken and shit. So Troy barely has the So Troy barely has the time for when Paris is founded. The ancient Troy is also the ancient, in quotation marks, Troy is also represented as a medieval city here. The Scaligerian chronology reckons that the so-called apocalyptic nations of Gog and Magog, mentioned in the Bible had disappeared from the historical arena in the early Middle Ages. However, reading modern commentary to the medieval Alexandria, we find out the names Gotti and Magotti must be a repercussion of the apocalyptic nations of Gog and Magog, identified with the memories of the Goths and the Mongols. Book of Revelation 20 verse 7, I think that is, who were well known in the Middle Ages. The pressure of Scaligerian chronology and all of these oddities brings historians to the conclusion that the Middle Ages were the time when the idea of chronological and consequentiality had been lost. Monks with crosses and thuribles, I don't know what they are, at the funeral of Alexander the Great, Catalina attending Mass. Orpheus becomes a contemporary of Aeneas. Sardanapal, a Greek king, and Julian the Apostate, a papal chaplain. Everything acquires a hue of fantasy in this world. This perplexes the modern historian greatly. The most blatant anachronisms and the strangest fancies coexist peacefully. All these facts and thousands of others are rejected by the historians, since they contradict the consensual chronology of Scaliger and Petavius. The Christian saints and the ancient pagan characters can be seen side by side on medieval Gothic cathedrals. Got 146, which is just some cathedrals, which shows the sculptures of Aristotle and Pythagoras together with the Christian saints from the western facade of Chartres Cathedral. Hobbit, are you there, Hobbit?
I am here.
So
yes.
Did you know you've been to Chartres, haven't you?
No. Let me just double check. Because I've been to Notre Dame in Paris, but let's have a look where Chartres is. Chartres,
because it says Chartres Cathedral has Aristotle and Pythagoras together with the Christian saints on it.
So there it is. No, never been. I could have gone because it's not far from Paris.
The two pagan philosophers on a Christian cathedral symbolise the importance of scientific knowledge. I like French. A lot of French cathedrals have got some weird stuff on them, haven't they?
Yeah, but why again? It's like, why have these Christian churches got these pagan? You know, considering they burned Galileo and everyone else at the fucking stake, right? Why
allegedly.
Well,
yeah.
Also, you have to consider, if it wasn't for the monastic orders preserving knowledge and sanctifying it, the reason we have Greek philosophy in Christianity is because of the monks.
Isn't it a reason also like we have a lot of like Nordic paganism?
Yeah, because the churches
preserved it, didn't
they? It found a way to assimilate previous pre-Christian beliefs and culture into it, because like the Green Man. The Green Man is something you don't find in European churches. It's uniquely an English phenomenon. And you will see the Green Man carved into doors of churches, and it's probably just
the woodwoes as well, which is very similar.
Yeah, we did an early episode, I think, about this.
I don't think we've done the Green Man properly. It's something I've always wanted to do an episode on because it's quite a large subject, isn't it?
I think it's worth listening back to some of the early episodes, mate, because we did cover it in some detail.
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay then.
Again, you know, listen to to previous episodes, because it's got like knowledge and stuff. I know I sound brain dead right now, but seriously, it's really hard to concentrate with this. Why do I have such a persistent headache? I don't get it.
Oh, it happens. It happens now and again.
Yeah, I'll take another headache pill.
So anyway, Chartres, Chartres have got Pythagoras and Aristotle on there, which is kind of fucking weird, isn't it?
So what? I mean, they just because they were born before the advent of Jesus Christ doesn't mean they weren't Christian.
Yeah.
What about John the Baptist?
Yeah. So the oldest biography of the ancient Aristotle is dated to 1300 AD. The manuscript's condition. Let's have a look up Aristotle and see when he was walking the earth.
Christian Mass is full of pagan symbolism, though. Yeah, well, some Protestants
You have
get
to
all
look at
shitty about
Falconelli
that.
then with the mystery of the cathedrals for that.
So Aristotle was wandering
rabbit
around 384 BC to 322 BC. So he was wandering around. So Aristotle was wandering around then, and the oldest biography of Aristotle is dated to 1300 AD. So this could speak again, Fraser, to your where they knock off the start date. So apparently Aristotle was wandering around in like the 300 ADs, but the oldest biography is 1300, nearly 1,000 years, allegedly nearly 1,000 years later.
Yep.
The manuscript's condition rapidly deteriorates. Certain places which could be read perfectly well in the XIX 19th century are a great effort to make out nowadays. All of this despite the fact that, according to Scaligerian chronology, certain manuscripts whose age exceeds 1,000 years are still perfectly legible, and their parchment remains in a great condition. QV in Cron 6 CH2, I don't know what that is. The historians are most probably right in their estimation of the manuscript destruction rate. Many old texts may be well preserved precisely because they really are not quite as old as we think them to be. Presumably, the best Greek codices of Aristotle's work belong to the 10th to 12th century. The sculptures of ancient pagans, Aristotle and Pythagoras, from the Chartres Cathedral near the Christian saints, the western facade, allegedly dating from 1145 to 1170. Aristotle and Pythagoras actually represent music and dialectic. Similar proximity of ancient and medieval characters is common in the bas-reliefs and murals of Christian temples in Europe and Russia. So figure 1.46, I think they're going to reference this a bit, so I'll just save this and put it up.
Yep.
Ancient statues Europe. Right, I'm just putting this up now. That's it. So that's transform. So there we go. There's that picture up. Where was I? So figure 1.46. The sculptures of the ancient pagans Aristotle and Pythagoras from the Chartres Cathedral near the Christian saints. The western facade, allegedly dating from 1145 to 1170. Aristotle and Pythagoras actually represent music and dialect. I've already read that. I don't know if they repeated that. Yeah, for some reason they repeated that paragraph. The ancient argument between the philosophies of Plato and Aristotle is revived in the 15th century when Platon and Scaliger, a devotee of Aristotle, engage in a similar dispute. Yet this is another odd medieval duplicate of ancient events. The history of Europe's first acquaintance with the works of Aristotle wasn't studied until the 19th century. It is written that Aristotle's philosophy had remained in a state of stagnation and taciturnity only 1,230 years since the birth of Christ. So, like, why would people be keeping a dead text alive if nobody's interested in it? Like, why would people be keeping that text alive?
Unless it was for some other nefarious purpose afterwards.
Or unless it wasn't that long ago since they died.
Yeah.
The Latin population learnt of the philosophy of Aristotle. We would also like to quote the opinion of contemporary historians on this issue. Namely, the medieval authors had a penchant of referring to texts that they were often together and altogether unacquainted with. Okay then. So medieval authors used to refer to texts they'd never read. Basically.
So, again, chat, like, forgive me because I'm having a hard time following this, but I find this an interesting point. Like, it's a dead language, it's a dead text, so why keep it going? Do you just feel like sometimes you're being lied to a lot? And like when you're being lied to, even if there is truth amongst it, you're just like, I don't care because you're you're pissing in my face and telling me it's rain.
As my dad always says, if it don't sound right, it's not it's not true.
Exactly. So it just there's times where I'm just like.
So why would you keep a dead text around for 1,000 years, Hobbit? This is the bit. A dead text, nobody's interested in it. It's not relevant. No one cares about it.
Oh, and that's the other thing. I was talking with someone like Latin being a dead language and the difficulty of translating into Latin because it's.
Well, it's not that dead, is it? Because people like Boris Johnson are fluent in it, are betters. They used to teach Latin in regular schools, but now it's only preserved. It's only preserved for the most those with the most money, isn't it?
My aunt, she knows Greek and ancient Greek. She studied classics. She doesn't know Latin though. She just was interested in Greek, which I suppose in some ways is more pertinent because the reason doctors have things referred to in Greek is because all the proper medicine men were Greeks, and the reason why the lawyers and solicitors refer to and stuff in Latin is because law and commercial law was based on the King James Bible, and the monks would all know Latin, and so
also
that's why.
plants and animals.
Yeah, because again, the monks were interested in plants and botany, so that's why they have Latin names.
Well, they allegedly were the scholars. They were the only people that could read, weren't they?
So that's why you'd have the classics of Latin being for legal terms and plants.
Didn't Christianity used to be much like Islam, where the preachers would just preach away in Latin? The people didn't really understand it. They learned the Bible by rote without really knowing what they were saying.
You'd have the priest reading sections of the Bible and doing it might not even be reading sections of the Bible. Like you'd have some priests just doing the Mass in Latin, knowing it by rote, as you said, but then the Epiphany would be done by lay people as well as the priest, and that would be done in whatever the language was. And that's why even in like the 14th century, it was seen as kind of like a fashion to do a sermon, but to do it in that place's language. Like there was a guy in they call it Czechia these days. What would it have been in the 13th century? Holy Roman Empire?
We also still use a lot of Latin in general language, like Alphabet Cat just said, etc., etc. Quid pro quo.
I do use caveat emptor a lot.
What's buyer beware? I can't remember which one that is.
Caveat emptor.
Oh, is that buyer beware?
Emptor is a buyer because like an emporium is a emptor and emporium are the same root.
I'm trying to think of the other. Well, AM and PM. They're Latin, aren't they?
That's
antemeridium and
postmeridium. That's
isn't it?
Yeah.
Anno Domini.
Yeah, that's. Yes. Oh God, excuse me. Oh, I think I might go to bed early.
Expelliarmus as karaoke Japanese for Ting Tong Sing.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Right, so that is a weird line, isn't it? That medieval authors had a penchant of referring to texts that they were altogether unacquainted with. That doesn't make sense to me. In the Middle Ages, the somewhat barbaric shape of the dispute between The realists and the nominalists really represents the renaissance of two immortal schools of idealism and empiricism. Nominalism and realism, a signified rebirth of the teachings of Plato and Aristotle in the 12th century, is also assumed that the originals of Plato's and Aristotle's works were unknown in Europe in that epoch, weren't yet written perhaps. Yet another chronological duplicate, antiquity equals Middle Ages. 3 of the 4 principal philosophical symptoms of the classical age were represented in the medieval science in the 12th to 13th century Paris, and the collision of realism and nominalism had given birth to skepticism at last. Another system that had been the latest to have appeared in Greece had also seemed imminent, namely that of mysticism. Indeed, mysticism soon becomes revived by Bonaventura. Thus, the evolution of medieval philosophy faithfully mirrors even the minute details of development of its predecessor. Let us present the information as a table. Middle Ages: 1. Realism. 2. Nominalism. 3. Platon, the initiator of the revival of Platonism. 4. Scalarius, the initiator of the revival of Aristotelism. 5. The confrontation between the two schools. 6. The confrontation between Platon and Scalarius. 7. The naissance of skepticism. 8. Mysticism evolves after the 3 schools. 9. A total of 4 principal medieval schools of thought. So next is the classical age: idealism, empiricism, Plato, the founder of Platonism. 4. Aristotle, the founder of Aristotelism. 5. Confrontation between the 2 schools. 6. Confrontation between the Platonists and Aristotelists. 7. The naissance of skepticism. 8. Mysticism evolves after the 3 schools. 9. A total of 4 principal classical schools of thought. A long time before the discovery of the ancient manuscript of the Golden Ass, the entire ass topic. What does that mean?
A man with the golden ass?
I don't know. I don't know what the golden ass is. Let's have a look. I've got to find out what this is. I'm going to have to look into this. So, what do you think, Hobbit, so far, to what you've listened to?
You should not be asking me this question.
The golden ass is the metamorphosis of Apuleius, which Augustine of Hippo referred to as the golden ass, that's Asinus Aureus, is the only ancient Roman novel in Latin to survive in its entirety. That's the plot. What does it say here? Publication date apparently is the late 2nd century AD, and it was published in English in 1566. So again, this is the date of the composition of the Metamorphoses is uncertain. It's been variously considered by scholars as a youthful work preceding Apuleius' Apology of 158 to 159, or as the climax of his literary career, perhaps as late as 170s or 180s. Apuleius adapted the story from a Greek original, which the author's name is unknown, or Lucius of Patrae, also the name of the lead character. It doesn't tell you when it resurfaced. That's the only thing. No, it doesn't tell you. It doesn't tell you here when it resurfaced. So back to the article. What does that say?
Look, I don't want to give chat the impression that I'm high or drunk or anything, because I'm sober as a judge. But what the hell are we talking about? I mean, I understand we've been talking a bit about lost history and like maybe some historical revisionism, but I haven't followed anything like we've been on about.
You maybe want to listen to it again when you're at
But maybe like tomorrow I'm going to listen back to this, and this is going to be like content for me as well.
It's basically saying that why is it Plato and Aristotle had a row back in ancient Greece, and then their proxies have a row 1,000 years later, basically, Hobbit. Like a lot of this stuff is history repeating itself, and what the fuck's going on?
isn't that what they call in philosophy the great conversation, where they've been doing this argument for millennia?
That's it. I mean, I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence about it. I know. Mad Faz is. I don't know. You're in
The great conversation to me sounds like a really pompous way of saying we're stroking our own dicks.
But even you say, Hobbit, don't you, that it's weird how there's bits missing, there's bits that don't fit together properly, even when you look at like standard history.
Sorry, I just was thinking about 5-cylinder engines for a minute. It's just like, why does this exist?
Do you get what I mean, Hobbit? It's like it's weird. It's like somebody's got to fill in these fucking gaps properly, haven't they?
Yeah, but isn't it? I find it really frustrating because it's like, well, we're obviously being lied to about history and the timeline and events.
Well,
and
also
history's
written by the victors.
It's a bit more nefarious than that. It will eventually. This is kind of like, this stuff will lead on to questioning whether these said people then actually existed. Was ancient Greece made up? Is there any evidence to suggest that ancient Greece was made up? Was Rome made up? And when we talk about these, should we say, the mud flooded built ancient architecture, these buildings,
and also the Renaissance. Was the Renaissance the Renaissance, or was it all part of the same? Or was it all part of the Roman thing? There was no gap in between, Hobbit.
That's also what they're saying. Yeah, there's different tangents and it could go off, but yeah, some people believe that Greece didn't exist. Some people would say that ancient Egypt didn't even exist. It's all a fabrication. It kind of diverts into those tangents, and then you have the more kind of like grounded. People,
we was Arabs in it.
Timeline just needs to be shifted up a bit.
Let me go on a bit, and this might start making more sense to you, Hobbit.
Yeah.
So the golden ass had been well developed by the medieval troubadours. The classical ass, it's not ass, that surfaced as late as the Renaissance is a logical conclusion of the entire medieval cycle. One has to note that long before the discoveries of the classical originals, all of the main plots they contain had been developed by the troubadours, with the ancient originals really being subsequent chronologically as well as structurally. But couldn't some of this troubadour stuff be written off as in like the olden days version of Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet?
Could be. But then again, what's to say that Plato wasn't that as well?
Yeah. Long before the discovery of the ancient quote-unquote ancient fables of Aesop, similar tales have been told in the Middle Ages in the alleged 11th to 13th century. But like, aren't the Aesop fables, they're just kind of like word of mouth things, aren't they? Like old wives' tales.
Well, isn't that basically what they're saying fucking Plato is?
Well, even the blacks did it, because if you look at the Song of the South, I think they're just basically like jazzed up version of Aesop's fables.
Yeah.
So I never got to see Song of the South. It was always one of those things in the trailers.
It's not half as racist as you like it to be, I bet.
No, it's not that. It's like back when I did watch Disney, because I did a thing of Robin Hood as well as Fantasia, and it's like Song of the South looked pretty good. It's like this sweet old guy, just singing birds and stuff, and it's like I.
Have you got a copy of it? Because I can send you a copy of it if you want one.
Yeah, I don't have a copy. I suppose I could just download a copy if I but I feel like I'm grown past the age of wanting to watch Disney stuff.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. It's quite funny as well. An important fact to note is that ancient people didn't have fixed names in the modern sense. What they used instead were aliases, which had explicit meanings in the original language. The aliases characterised a person in some manner. The more remarkable qualities a person had, the more aliases he or she would be likely to possess. B.L. Smirnoff, really, says says that one seldom finds a name that would mean nothing. For instance, chroniclers could refer to an emperor by the alias that they used in their own region, and so different chronicles refer to some rulers by same rulers by different names.
Mm-hmm.
So the Egyptian pharaohs used to have different names before and after their coronation. As multiple coronations would take place in different regions, the list of names kept growing. These aliases were usually translated as the mighty, the fair, etc. The father of
a bit like the Pope as well. Like
probably more like is that kid? I can't remember the king. I can't remember his name before, but he ended up like he was like James the First of Scotland or something like that, and like.
Oh yeah, James the Sixth of England, wasn't it? And then
Yeah.
James the First of Scotland or something. Yeah.
Yeah. There's things like that, so it could be stuff like that. I think they're saying. The father of a Roman consul who lived in the alleged year.
Or the other way around, actually. It was James VI of Scotland and First.
That's it, yeah. Alleged year 169 BC had 13 names. His son had 38. The Torah scholars quote 94 names for the biblical god. The same phenomenon was typical in Russian history. Tsar Ivan III was also known as Timothy. Tsar Basil III was also known as Gabriel. Prince Dmitri, who'd been killed in Uglich, was called Uar. One name had been secular, the other name had been ecclesiastical. The name Uar probably simply meant Tsar. Nowadays, we tend to assume that the medieval names differed significantly from the ancient ones. However, the analysis of a number of texts shows us that the ancient names were in use throughout the Middle Ages. Nilus of Sinai, who was supposed to have died in 450 AD, writes to his contemporaries possessing typically ancient names: Apollodorus, Amphictyon, Atticus, and etc. Oh, it's just a fucking list of names. Many names that are considered to be exclusively ancient nowadays were still in use in Byzantium in the 12th to 14th century. Georgius France uses the following names in his history: Antioch, Argo, Amorius, Hemetian, Demetrios, Dionysus, Dioscorus, Epidaurus, etc. Typical ancient names belonging to people of the 13th to 15th century. Handwritten books. I don't think we ain't got much more to go on this one. Handwritten books remained in existence for a long time after the invention of the printing press. They had been made in large quantities in the 15th and 18th century across Europe. In the Balkans, handwritten books managed to compete with the printed ones as recently as the 19th century. Apart from a few exceptions, the entire Irish literature of the 7th to 17th century only exists in the handwritten form. Up until 1500 AD, 77% of all printed books are supposed to have been in Latin, possibly due to the fact that Latin fonts were easy to make. Other fonts made their way into printing practice extremely slowly. The diacritic signs were difficult to make, as well as the ones used for stresses, vocalizations, etc. This is why the scribes had remained without competition in what concerned copying the Greek, Arabic, and Hebraic manuscripts for centuries after the invention of the printing press. This may be the reason. Hobbit. Oh, you're going to say something?
No. Continue.
This may be the reason why many Greek, Arabic, and Hebraic manuscripts, considered very ancient, belong to the epoch of printing. Among them are many classical texts, Tischendorf's biblical codices, etc. So what they're saying here is a lot of books that could be considered ancient books are probably not ancient books because they were handwritten.
Yeah.
It appears that the region...
Oh, that makes things tricky, doesn't it? Because it's just like, well, it's a transcription because printing presses and such.
Yeah, it's kind of weird as well because also you'll have, like, because someone's handwriting something, there's going to be mistakes in there as well, aren't there?
Well, I even heard, like, people saying, like, they would try and transcribe everything, including, like, little smudges or ancient coffee stains, back before there was coffee stains.
Yeah.
Because, well, that's how it was in that book. So you got to do it warts and all.
Yeah. It appears that the region richest. It appears the region richest in handwritten books during the printing epoch was Greece, the country that is considered to have a very long ancient history, one that gave the world a large number of quote-unquote ancient manuscripts. Historians tell us that due to a lack of publishing houses in Greece, books were copied manually. One wonders how many of the handwritten books of the 15th to 19th century were to be declared ancient later on. The following info, and as we know, once a scientist or historian has made a mistake, they don't really want to go back on it, do they?
Yeah, no, they don't like to say, "Oh, we were wrong," Yeah.
Yeah. The following information clearly demonstrates the lack of solid scientific foundation under the very concept of paleographical dating, that is, dating by the handwriting style. It turns out that the creation of the deluxe Greek codices with the texts of ancient authors has been ordered by humanists and philanthropist collectors. Let us repeat the question. How many of these medieval codices were later declared extremely ancient? One might suggest a method that allows a differentiation between the real manuscripts and the handwritten copies of printed books, namely comparing the misprints in the printed versions with the handwritten errors, since during the manual copying of printed literature, most misprints would get copied as well. The foundations of Scaligerian chronology had been laid by the analysis of written sources. A secondary analysis of these datings, free from a priori hypotheses about the antiquity of the documents, may lead to the discovery of serious contradictions, as we have demonstrated. So there we go.
Very interesting.
So what do you think, knowing that bit of knowledge then, Hobbit?
Man, I don't fucking know. I'm sorry. I said, did I give a disclaimer? I feel I should have given a disclaimer at the beginning of this episode. Like, I'm sorry, guys.
The contents of Hobbit may have settled in transit.
Yeah, I just like the reason we're doing this on the Friday, by the way, is because of my antisocial work schedule. And now it's my first day off after 4 days on, and I'm just like, I've got a headache. And
oh fuck! I found the story on Unexplained Mysteries. Weird creature with no anus was not earliest human ancestor.
What?
It's got no anus, but how does it smell? Terrible.
Yeah. Hold on. I've got to show this because it's. It literally looks like some sort of fucking sex toy or something.
Fuck's sake! Is this where we are now?
Yeah, this is. It's got no anus. It's not our earliest human ancestor. Right, get rid of you. Here we go. Weird creature with no anus was not earliest human ancestor. You seen that fucking thing?
No, I haven't looked at
that?
Known as Saccharitis, this absolutely bizarre creature which resembles a wrinkly sack with a large mouth and no anus. They really fucking hammering this at the no anus angle, aren't they?
Oh please, what are the? That's a fucking minion, isn't it? It's just pink minion.
While it had been believed that this could be like you'll know this is absolutely fucking bang on, totally real. In a second, Fraser. While it had been believed that this could in fact be the earliest common ancestor of all humans, new research by scientists in China seems to have now ruled out this possibility. To study it, the team built up a 3D computer model by taking hundreds of X-rays of its fossil remains.
Right, and that's what they came out with. A pink fucking...
A pink tea cozy.
Yeah, like... How did they come up with this shit? Like, you just expect people to just believe this shit, don't you? Like,
we considered lots of alternative groups that Saccharitis might be related to, including the corals, anemones, and jellyfish, which also have a mouth with no anus. They're fucking... Like, how many times can you put mouth with no anus in the fucking thing? Said to study
I have no anus, and yet I must scream.
To resolve
Oh
the
no,
problem of
I
our
have no anus and I must shit.
to resolve the problem, our computational analysis compared the anatomy of saccharoids with all other living groups of animals, concluding a relationship with the arthropods and their king, the group to their kin, group to which insects, crabs, and roundworms belong to. So it's an arthropod.
But there's a
Right.
number of things on here which may be interesting, but so the first one, which I'm going to read out just because it makes me giggle, is NASA's working hard to keep UFO investigation schedule.
Yeah, of course they
Oh,
are.
well, are we giving up on the UAPs?
Yeah,
term
it
now?
should be called UAP, shouldn't they?
Yeah, well,
UAPs.
UAP is kind of like people of color. It's like going to be
What
called
do you
racist
think to
again.
the alternative UFOs?
I like UFO, yeah.
Do you like UFO?
I just like
Why
the
can't
idea
we
of
just call it UFO? What's wrong with UFO?
UFO. Yeah, USUP.
UFO.
Like, yeah,
UFO.
UFO.
I am an UFO.
I was on the
you were-
Serengeti and I noticed an UFO in the sky, and then my guard broke down. So I just like the idea that NASA's working hard. Yeah, we're really working hard.
Yeah.
LOL.
LOL.
what-
We're just feeding all the moon rocks to
Yeah,
cockroaches.
to cockroaches.
Yeah.
The other one which I'm genuinely interested in is vast megalithic complex discovered in Spain. So I might have to go visit there for my next holiday.
Oh, is that like is that like a what's it?
Spanish
like a
Stonehenge.
Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah, or it could be a hypogeum or whatever. This one is in school top trumps thing. Megalodon.
Can't we do the Rick and Morty one? The one who the bloke who makes a mech suit for a snake.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've seen
It
that on
reminds
Twitter
me
a
of
lot
Rick and
time.
Morty, the Snake Jazz episode.
Yeah, so that I've seen on Twitter a bit. I wasn't too interested in that, but the
Wait.
one which I like here is like Megalodon could
Hold on,
swallow a
I
great
don't
white
think
shark whole because it's so big.
Fraser, have you not seen this one? The Snake Jazz one?
No, I haven't seen this one. No.
Oh yeah, some
didn't get that
dudes
far.
managed to make a. I was kind of wondering how the snake how it worked. I mean, is it like it can detect like the undulations of the snake, and that's how it works?
Maybe. It's just.
Is it like a kind of treadmill thing for snakes? Is that how it works?
It's just like, how does a snake not move out of the fucking thing?
It must be like a treadmill or something, mustn't it?
Have you seen?
Yeah.
I'm just looking at this snake mech suit. It probably enjoys it.
I'm Alan
Is this a
Pan,
bit like
and I'm
when
an-
they give rats toy cars to drive in, and the rats enjoy driving?
Oh, they
them even
fucking
if
love
you
it, don't they?
Even if you don't give them bits of cheese.
Yeah, it's a
and I'm
geezer.
just-
It's a geezer called Alan Pan that's made it. He's got a YouTube channel and stuff, and I think he explains it. But we'll just show the snake walking round.
I mean, in conclusion, because we are Top Gear, the radio show. I
wait,
I
that's
recently got a
YouTube.
Jag. Did you know I got about this? Do you hear about this? I got a Jag, and I enjoy driving around in it.
Just-
Not even
To be fair, it looks like they had quite a bit of trouble getting this snake into this mech suit.
yeah. It's like you struggle to put. It's like snakes don't really want to behave, but I just enjoy
Wait.
driving around, not really going
What the
anywhere.
fuck? Snakes actually do have legs, but they walk on their dicks. I mean, listen to this. It's saying that they actually do have legs. Snakes do have legs, but
Well,
they develop
I've
into
seen
penises. They have two
I've seen
penises
snakes
instead.
before, and I'm telling you, they don't have legs.
I thought
Well,
I
no,
wriggled.
they don't, because it fucking develops into two penises instead. They had a choice: have legs or penises, and they chose penises.
Clever dick.
Yeah. It's like, do you want to walk again, or do you want to have two dicks? And they
Just
obviously
like
chose
how
dicks.
fucking desperate was he to just jam his arm in there and drag that fucking snake through? I saw that fucking snake was loving it. I bet the rat. Who do you reckon enjoyed it more, the snake or the rats? The rats when they were driving their little fucking truck around. the snake truck,
No.
the rat truck. Yeah, they put rats in little cars, and they could drive them around, and they were loving it, weren't they? I bet.
Can you just put this?
Again, I just think to myself,
does it work?
what, rats and monkeys like driving cars? I think basically like any like animal that is worthwhile enjoys driving, and yet we have human beings that go, oh no, just couldn't drive, it terrifies me, and oh, petrol's like, by the way, Charlie, if you're listening to this, fucking learn to drive already, stop being such a sissy. Anyway,
just on a good news, I mean, just so everybody feels safe out there, Yuri Geller has said he's going to use his mind power to stop a nuclear attack, so we're all safe, guys, don't worry about it. Yuri Geller's got you back.
Nice.
Didn't you know Iron Dome is just Yuri
now.
Geller saying, hey,
Bye.
Palestinian rockets, go away.
I hope he does a bit better than when he tried to protect the red and gold from Manchester United in the mid-90s.
Fuck's sake.
Have you seen, apparently a ghostly figure can be seen emerging from a mass grave during a segment on James May's new show, Our Man in Italy?
Yes, I have seen that clip, and
seen
it
that?
is pretty spooky. It's,
So
it's a ghost.
I've just put it on now. A spooky
It's
ghost.
a ghost. It's a real
Oh,
ghost.
fucking hell.
Where is it?
There's something fucking weird going on there. They do put it on twice. In the background between the trees.
Right, wait, hold on.
Whoa, that's fucking freaky.
Do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. Again,
Okay.
again.
Okay, I'll do it once more. Right, here we go.
Again.
So 20, it's
Yeah.
so he goes pointing, and then the camera goes back to him, and then you see it over his shoulder, and they do.
Yeah.
There we go. Points between the trees. That is fucking weird. That's.
It's in daylight as well, which is interesting.
It's not wearing a shell suit though, is it?
No.
Woman who had NDE can't wait to go back. Yeah, I've been trying to find. I wouldn't mind doing like NDEs, because apparently you can have like near-death experiences that are really fucking bad. I read about them years ago, but I can't actually find any tales of it.
Worm's Eye View. It's a neurologist who was in a coma, and he talks about his experience, his near-death experience, and it's very interesting because he was brain dead. There's no way he could have been dreaming or hallucinating, and yet he had all of these memories of his time when he was dead.
Yeah.
So where I'm sure chat knows about it, but if you don't,
well, you know how generally people think like an NDE is where you go and like a lot, your granny takes you up like a nice white tunnel, and you go to heaven, and you have a hang around, and you go, oh, I think I better go back now. Some people have had like dark experiences where they're fucking dragged through a black tunnel, and it's all fucking horrible and fire and everything.
Well,
and they can smell the brimstone, and
yeah.
Nice.
Have you seen? There's another Move Along. That's not a carved face on Mars.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, just
move
nothing
along,
to see
move along.
here.
Nothing to see here. It's that NASA have said there's nothing to see here.
So if space is fake and gay, is this just like
just
false
so you know, Hobbit? In reality, of course, it's a simple random happenstance of shapes and angles. But it's interesting to see once again just how easily such things can be picked out on the surface of another world.
You know what really grieves me about that, and I need to get a little bit Fed posty here, okay? So bear in mind too, right? It's the same sort of thing, just saying it's a random collection of rocks. Yeah, the pyramid's just a random collection of rocks.
Yeah.
And also, oh, it's not a baby, it's just a random clump of cells. Well, in that case, when that guy shot John Lennon, it's just a random clump of cells. It was just a post-term abortion of John Lennon.
Yeah. But apparently this one's from 2014, so they've sat on it for a while.
The intellectual wankery in the space community is unrivaled. Yeah.
But
Oh, speaking of space, should we show my favourite clip of the week?
Oh yeah, that's the guys.
Spaceman, I always wanted you to make
Just
this
so you
into
know,
Spaceman.
this was probably
Exclusive. Yeah.
I wish that could have been the entirety of the song and not the rest of that, bait and switch.
yeah. Right, here we go. Do you want to see a volcano from space?
Oh, this is totally real, by the way. Flat Earth disproved.
I think PS2 want their graphics back.
Yep.
That there is a volcano from space, people. I still think it's better CGI than I've seen in She-Hulk.
CGI these days is really lazy.
16 million views, Hobbit.
I like how just like the clouds are a static texture.
How about this one? Earth's rotation at play. Definitely someone's at play.
Well, if Earth's rotation's at play, then why are the clouds just a static fucking texture?
Oh, I really used to wonder how that can affect weather in another place. Now I get it. The next area says CGI can't affect any weather. Clouds are moving, only the eruption. Clouds aren't moving, only the eruption.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's just it's a static texture.
This
isn't it?
dude next areas just keeps going, it's CGI. Actually, more believable than thinking it's a video of a volcanic eruption. To be fair, next Arius, you're doing the Lord's work here.
Who's this next Arius guy? I need to give him a follow. That's what you do, right?
Oh yeah.
So,
just go to the thing.
Where's
hold on. Someone's found the source photo. Taken from the Space Shuttle mission STS-68 of Kluvechikol volcano in 1994. The animation is an artistic embellishment. Finally somebody had to tell him to stop being a fucking dumbass. But anyway, this is what they're saying is the original photo. It still doesn't look that great, does it? It still looks like it's superimposed.
Is this tweet in Unexplained Mysteries?
No, this tweet's from the 14 words Telegram.
Okay.
Nexarius again. I don't want any artistic embellishments in science. Never, ever. Doing the opposite is not science anymore. It's art, and people need to be made aware of that. He's going fucking nuts in this section because it's CGI again.
He needs, seriously, this is a neat thing. So much of this is bullshit. Pictures of HIV viruses or that star recently which turned out, no, it's just a slice of salami.
Yeah.
And all this other stuff is just mate, it's all bullshit, isn't it? None of this is real. There's no pictures taken of viruses. I mean, I can believe in bacteria and fungus because I've actually observed that in a microscope. But
I'll bet this one then. Where are the 4,000 satellites that are in orbit? The Crypto Keeper says, over the entire planet, there are tens of thousands of satellites. The amount of space covered by the orbital range is massive. It's like releasing a bucket of fish into the ocean and then wondering why you can't see the fish the next day. But look at that. No stars in the background. No, like you say, no fucking space junk.
The other thing as well, people saying, it's a geostationary satellite, duh. Right, so if it's a geostationary satellite, then why don't we notice the shadows of the clouds and other things changing? Because I assume this isn't just taking over a few seconds, right? This loop is over many hours.
Oh, someone's done a zoom in of it, Hobbit, if you look on stream.
So I assume this is over many hours, right? Well, over many hours, the Earth will have rotated, right? So you should see the angle of the sun different on the Earth, surely, right?
It's weird.
I get so annoyed with this bullshit. This is why I like they go farting and breakdancing far out his ass. That's very good.
Someone
That.
said zoom in.
You don't believe me?
Oh,
Shame on you.
Oh, so this is the actual volcano picture, apparently, that I'm putting up now. Looks more like a mushroom cloud. Doesn't look like it. Isn't fucking taking up thousands and thousands of fucking miles of Earth.
Speaking of which, does anyone remember La Palma when it blew up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard apparently the reason that stopped being such a big deal was...
This is what it looks like from the Motion Leap app. Someone's put fire on it and made the fucking clouds move. Yeah, great thread that one. If you go in the Fortean Telegram, you'll find it in there.
What about La Palma, Hobbit? Why did it suddenly?
Oh,
become
right. So yeah, it turns out that it could have blown up and slid into the ocean, called a massive tsunami, which would have wiped out the east coast of Americas and Africa and Europe. You know, it would all been pretty bad, right? But the U.S. Navy and the Spanish Navy drilled a lot of holes and set off some nukes underwater, which apparently stopped the eruption. So they managed to plug it with explosions.
The ESA are doing a flight, and it appears the ESA are trying to catch up with the Russians from the 60s because they're putting Shaun the Sheep in it. Right, so are we done, boys? Is it? You got anything else you want to talk about, Hobbit?
Like dragons are real, dinosaurs are fake.
I'm done. Night all, stay spooky,
Good
etc., etc. Say the night, Hobbit.